Hello friends, welcome back. In this section, you're going to learn about compression in DB2. So I'll talk about what is compression, why do we need it, what are the advantages of using compression, what types of compressions are available in DB2, and how we can implement a compression type on a table in a database. But before moving to all of this, let us first understand a few things. So the first thing that might pop up into your mind is, why do we need compression? Why do we need to compress the table data? And a simple answer to that would be to save on the storage cost and to improve the performance of queries. Now these 2 points are related to compression, and by the end of this section, you would be able to relate these 2 points with table compression in DB2. So here I have a sample table with me that has 6 columns and 2 records. So we create multiple tables within a database, and in a production environment, in a real scenario, you will have several columns and millions of records. And the table size usually goes up to several gigabytes. Then you also know about the storage topology in DB2. So we have table spaces that are made up of containers, and we have containers that are made up of pages. And a page can be of 4 different denominations, starting with 4K, 8K, 16K, and you can have a 32K page size. Now when you keep inserting records into your table, all these rows are serially placed one after the other onto a page. And this is how data gets stored onto a page. So right now we can see that all of this data is uncompressed, but the idea of compression is to reduce the space required to store the same amount of data in a lesser space. So let's say you can store 100 records of an employee table onto a single 4K page. With compression, you might be able to store those 100 records maybe in the half of the page. Similarly, if you have a very huge table that has like 10,000 records, and to store all those 10,000 records, you need 5 pages, 5 4K pages. With compression, you might be able to store all those 10,000 records in 3 pages. So that's how we save on the storage, and it also helps us to improve the performance. So as I said, that with compression, you will be able to store more rows and thus more data on the same page. So as a result, fewer pages must be read to access the same amount of data. So let's say I do a select star from a table that has 10,000 records. And for DB2 to show me those 10,000 records, it has to bring up those 5 pages, 5 data pages into the buffer pool and then give me the result. And let's say by compressing the table data, I'm able to store those 10,000 records on 3 pages now. So DB2 would only need to access or bring those 3 data pages instead of 5 this time. So you would be needing fewer IOs to perform the same operation. Then you also know that there is a buffer pool where everything comes in, and whenever you have to write some data back to the database, it first goes into the buffer pool and then it is flushed to the memory. Now buffer pool has a fixed size. So for example, if a buffer pool is of 4 MB in size, so let's say it can store 10 pages at once. With compression, a buffer pool would be able to accommodate more number of pages, and therefore the likelihood that needed rows are in the buffer pool increases for a query. And for this reason, compression can improve performance through improved buffer pool hit ratios, because now more data is there in the buffer pool that does not need to be fetched from the disk. In a similar way, compression can also speed up the backup and restore operations, as fewer pages need to be transferred to backup or restore the same amount of data. So with compression, you're able to store more data onto the same page. That helps you to reduce cost and also improves the performance as we discussed. Now let's look at what types of table compressions are available in DB2. So by default, when you create a new table in DB2 database, table compression is not enabled, and you need to enable that. So we'll see how we can do that. But here, let's look at the 2 different types of table compression that we can work with in DB2. So here is a row compression and value compression. We will be working with row compression because it is the most used compression type in real environments. Although you can read more about value compression from the IBM Knowledge Center. Now to use row compression in DB2, you must have an available license for the DB2 storage optimization feature that enables you to use row compression for your tables in your DB2 databases. Now this particular feature comes packaged with high-end editions like Advanced Enterprise Server Edition, Workgroup Server Edition. All of these editions are already packaged with storage optimization feature. So therefore you will be able to work with row compression. And if it is not available with your edition, then you have to purchase this feature explicitly from IBM. So as I said that we will be working with row compression in DB2. Now there are two types of row compression in DB2, and those are classic row compression and adaptive row compression. And these are the two types that we'll look into in the upcoming lectures. But before that, let us get an understanding about what is row compression. A row compression is a method that is a dictionary-based compression algorithm that is used to replace the recurring strings or the repetitive strings with shorter symbols within data rows. So as we saw in the previous table example, we can replace the value 500 that is occurring in all these different rows with a shorter symbol, and this shorter symbol would need lesser storage as compared to storing the value 500. So there are more examples in the upcoming lectures, so don't worry about that. But the thing is that we are going to look at these two compression types in the upcoming lectures. These two are row compression types. The classic row compression only uses a table level compression dictionary, and it is also known as static compression. And then with 10.1, a new compression type was introduced, that is adaptive row compression, that uses the table level compression dictionary along with a page level compression dictionary. So adaptive compression is basically built on top of classic compression, and it goes one step beyond to compress data even further using the page level compression dictionary. So in the upcoming lectures, we are going to focus on these two compression types, that is classic and adaptive. And we'll also learn about what these compression dictionaries mean, how they work, how they are related to compression, and all the other factors that are related to compression in DB2. So that's it guys, let's move on to the next lecture and understand what is classic row compression and how it works in DB2. Thank you.